Welcome to MatriMoney. We are so excited that you're here. Looks like we have a lot of participants on the call, and we're super excited about that. So what we want to do today is help you achieve your financial happily ever after. And first off, I'm going to start with letting Jennifer Aleman-Salazar, who is one of our loan officers here, introduce herself. Then I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll get right into the material.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Aleman-Salazar, like she said, and we're here at Service First Mortgage in the Dallas area, and we are local in Garland. I grew up in Mesquite, actually, and went to college at SMU, and after I graduated in 2004, I started at this company, so it's been about 13 years now, and I am now a loan officer here, and we just had a great 13 years of helping couples learn how to purchase a home, learn about their finances, learn about credit, and it's just I really dropped into what I was called to do, and I figured that out pretty quickly, which I'm lucky for. My dad is a pastor in Mesquite, and so I've definitely learned about helping couples and about being selfless and helping couples learn about credit and learn to get through disagreements about finances and those sorts of things. And I actually recently got married in 2016, which has taught me a whole slew of what really happens when you become married. And so the system of MatriMoney has just been a natural progression. I don't have kids. I'm 34 years old, and I'm really excited to be here to share with you guys this information, and I look forward to meeting you guys personally.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. My story is just a little different than Jennifer's, and I actually got to the loan side of the real estate business a little later in life. I'm not going to say how old I am, Jennifer. I know you did, but just to give you an idea, I'm almost an empty nester. I have a soon-to-be 19-year-old and a 16-year-old, both daughters. I'm also native to this area. In fact, third-generation Dallasite, and super proud of that. I have always been in the real estate industry, though, for the last 17 years, and have a lot of knowledge about what happens in this industry, and I love helping couples, whether it's buying their first home or whether it's buying their last home. It is certainly a passion of mine, and just like Jennifer, I feel strongly about what I do, and I love it. So we are so excited today to be sharing with you this particular aspect of our job, and I'm going to let Jennifer explain a little bit to you guys about really what is MatriMoney and why we think it's so important.
Yeah, and why it's important. I know you guys have heard over and over that the number one cause for divorce is money. And it's whether you have a ton of it or whether you have not much of it. The number one cause is money. And so my goal is whether I help one couple or whether we help 10 couples not get divorced because of finances, then we have been successful.
Right.
And so we want to help couples understand what their goals are and help them get there, whether their goal term is in 5 years or their goals are in 10 years or whatever the time frame is. But what we found over the years that we've been in real estate is how many couples keep secrets from each other. And maybe not even intentional secrets,
yeah,
but secrets that they just want to not tell each other because they know it'll start a fight. And so we started this program where couples can come in, meet with us one-on two, and open up about whatever they have financially, and it be a non-judgment zone, kind of like Planet Fitness, a non-judgment zone. And we ask specific questions. Do you pay child support? Do you pay alimony? Let's look at your credit, and we go over all of those little details. And the one reason that this just spurred in us is because of seeing the couples come in with their secrets. So, for instance, we've had a husband didn't know that his wife had a felony conviction in her past. And she actually came to us ahead of time to tell us that she knew she couldn't get a government loan as far as an FHA or anything that wouldn't allow for a felon to have the mortgage. And so she let us know, but never wanted her husband to know. And so, but after being married for 10 years, it's kind of hard to come out with that all of a sudden. But it was something that she came out to us about. So little secrets like that just don't need to be held before you walk down the aisle is really important. And if you know of someone that is married and needs something like this, we're more than happy to do this if they've already been married. We just really, we really love to do this before someone is married. We've had a wife and husband come to us, and the husband admit to paying child support in front of us because it's one of our questions when it comes to finances of, do you have a monthly obligation of child support? So he thought he had to tell the truth, and he did, but he never told his wife the truth. And so long story short, that couple never purchased. They actually ended up getting divorced because she didn't even know he had another child. And so whatever we can do to help keep those little secrets come out and just make it out in the open before you walk down the aisle, before anything, before 10 years has passed, that's where we really, really want to help couples out. And then on the bright side, the positive side is helping couples learn what they need to do to purchase a house down the road, purchase their dream home, and not trying to scramble and purchase that dream home when you only have a month to get out of your apartment, but have time to do those things together. So Christy's going to help us understand what we're going to go through and what's going to be required along the way.
Yeah, so some of the things that we really want couples to start thinking about, again, like Jennifer said, whether they're not married and they're about to get married, or they've been married for a while and they just never went through this process together. So you want to think about, what your current housing obligations are, whether you're leasing somewhere, whether that's a home or an apartment, or whether you're living with family and maybe not have a housing obligation yet, but what's that current housing obligation? What's your credit look like? It's surprising to me how many people that I talk to, young and old, who do not monitor their credit, and they don't have any idea. And a lot of times, I don't know if you know this statistic, but 1 out of 4 Americans has some type of error on their credit report. So it's super important that you know what your credit is and that you're monitoring it. We're going to help you figure out how to do that. Where do you work? What's your income like? How much money do you have to work with? How do your savings and retirement look? How's your checking? What money do you have and how are you using it? And as Jennifer mentioned, if you're divorced or if you have children, outside of the marriage, do you have child support obligations and what do those look like? An important part of all of this is going to be budget planning. So we're going to help you work through a budget, whether you've never had a budget before or you have a budget now and it's just not, really working for you, or it's not what you want. But what are all those things that you need to think about inside of that budget? It's funny, I just did this process with my 18-year-old. She's about to be a sophomore in college, and for the first time in her life, I'm making her get a job. And when we did her budget, she actually cried when she realized there was a deficit between what she had for college and what she needed to have fun and to, put gas in her car and go to the movies and all those kinds of things. But it was a great process for her to learn about reality, So we're going to help you guys do that. We love some things about Dave Ramsey. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of him. There are some things that we love about him, and one of the things that we do love is his baby steps. So his 7 baby steps, which are, build an emergency fund. So he recommends a $1,000 emergency fund, which I think is a really good rule of thumb. Then pay off all your debt. We're going to talk a little bit about debt. We're going to talk about how to get you out of debt. Then your next step is to, you've got that emergency fund. You've got your debt paid off now. Let's build some savings. You want to have about 3 to 6 months of liquid savings. So we're going to talk about how to do that. And then looking at investments next. You really need to be investing about 15% of your income. Then college funding, which, believe me, right now, I realize how important all that is. And then paying off your home early. We want to help you, get a home, and if that means leveraging and putting you into a mortgage, which most Americans do, that's great. But then let's figure out how to get that mortgage paid off as quick as possible. And then the last step is, how to build wealth, how to save, and then, from there, the ability to be able to give back. So Jennifer's going to talk a little bit next about some danger areas.
I loved what Christy said about how, jumping into reality to what really is the reality, because when you're wedding planning, it's just almost such a whimsical and love-filled, which is great. but a whimsical time of thinking of all of the dreams and everything happening. But there's also a lot of reality there of, is there money left over at the end of the day for us to go on a date? Is there money left over for us to go out to eat 3 times a week? Maybe not. And so it's just something that really has to be laid out and not something that you hide from. And I know that there's a lot of couples who just avoid looking at those details and just let it all work out. And that's, to me, is the worst, most dangerous thing that you can do, is just let it all work out and not really worry about looking at those details. And that's where you end up having insufficient funds on your bank account, or end up being without money to pay for your apartment payment, or whatever the case is, because nobody ever paid attention to those details. And so that's what we're going to talk about. A lot of the dangers that I'm going to go over, I actually did some research in a book called Marriage on the Rock, and some of you may have already did some studying with this book in your premarital counseling. But the first area of danger when it comes to being married is that you're always going to have a driver. There's going to be one person that's in charge of the budgeting, of paying the bills, the main point person. And even in my marriage, it's me. I'm the one that's in charge of it. My husband just kind of goes with it. He wants to be in communication of what's happening, but he allows for me to be the point person of paying the bills. Who's the one in your?
It's me.
It's
also.
you, Christine. Yeah. Okay, so a lot of times it's the women. I talk to a lot of couples where it is the man that likes to be in charge of everything, but that's where we are. Now, it is, while there is always going to be one driver, and that driver could have a master's degree in finance. It doesn't matter how equipped that person is. It's always super important to respect both opinions. And that's something has really honed in at home for me, is that it's important for me to respect my husband's opinion on where he thinks finances should go, or how much he thinks needs to be saved. And we may not always agree, but I can't, even though I'm the driver, I can't always take the wheel and just do whatever I want without giving any regard to what he has to say. So that's the number one danger that we would definitely cover. The second danger is financial dominance. So while there is always a driver, that driver can definitely cause, there's a word for this. Hang on, I'm going to think about it. I got a story for this. A friend of ours, and I pray she never hears this, a friend of ours, she was always the driver of their finances, and she all of a sudden decided that she had the financial ability to go ahead and buy a new car. And when she went and did that, she spent whatever she wanted on the car. She saw it in the budget that she could do, and she never really discussed it with her husband. But the next week, the husband wanted to go out for a beer with the guys after softball practice. But she told him when he called to say, hey, babe, I'm going to go out for a beer with the guys, she said, oh, no, that's not in the budget. Yet the week before, it was completely fine for her to go ahead and purchase a brand new car. And that's the kind of financial dominance that I'm talking about, is that she's using it as a tool, knowing that she's in charge of the budget. She uses it as a tool to not allow for her husband to go do certain things that she may not want him to do out of jealousy or whatever it is, but she's using that as a reason. So that financial dominance is very careful. You want to have communication, and that's the number one thing here. And if she would communicate to her husband that she didn't feel comfortable with him hanging out with those guys or whatever, but instead she did it in the name of their budget, and knowing that she's actually just full of it because she went and bought a brand new car the week before. All right, so the third area of danger is disagreements with the budget, or disagreements with money being spent, rather. You will need a budget. You always, always, always need a budget. And the budget doesn't have to just be the needs, as in water, electricity, gas, apartment payment, whatever it is. It needs to be things that are that can be considered frivolous. So if it's important to the wife to get a manicure every 2 weeks, put it in the budget. If it's important for the husband to have money to go shoot some golf balls, put it in the budget. So that there's always a very clear direction of where this money's headed. Nobody fights about it, so you don't wake up one day and know that there's no money in the bank and your husband wants to go, it's important for him to go shoot some golf balls. I don't know if that's even the correct term, but hit some golf balls. Then it wouldn't be an argument because you know what? You've already budgeted it and the money's already there.
Right.
And so it's just important that you both are fully aware of what each other want to do. And it takes some planning for sure, and it takes some time. And your first budget that you work out isn't always your final budget because the next month you may figure out, oh, you know what? It's important that we go to the movies probably twice a month together. Let's go ahead and add that into the budget. Whatever it is, you need a budget to keep from disagreements from happening with each other. That's going to be number 3. Number 4 is all about debt. So it's important to come together and learn about how you both feel about debt. And I will tell you right now how I feel about it. There's no need for debt. Debt should not exist. If you have it, it should be worked towards being paid off. But if there is someone that feels that there needs to be debt because they need to get more points or whatever it is with building up credit, it needs to be communicated, but you should always be living within your means. And so what I mean by that is if you think that you need a flat screen TV that's going to cost $1,500 and you don't have the money in the bank and you are thinking, oh, we've got a $1,500 left on our credit card, let's just go ahead and charge it and we can start paying it monthly throughout the next year. That's a huge danger, and it's a problem because it's going to prevent you from being able to reach your goals, from being able to reach what you want to do with your finances. So just debt itself can be a huge danger because when it comes to credit cards, we all walk around with this blank check, and if we're not careful with it, it could cause a huge stopping point of being able to achieve your financial dreams for your family. And you definitely don't want that to be, your decision to go ahead and purchase this, examples of a pool table or whatever to keep you from being able to achieve your dreams. Or even the example of buying a car that maybe you shouldn't necessarily have, and you all of a sudden have an $800 a month payment, and then you go to try and buy a house, and you find out there's not enough room in your debt, with looking at your debt versus your income, to be able to buy a house because you have an $800 car payment. So it's just important to look at those debts and make sure that you're staying clear to achieve whatever dreams you and your spouse may have. So those are the 4 areas of danger that we will discuss together and make sure that we're covering together where you guys may have personal issues on or feel some kind of way about. So we can look at those in detail personally for each one of you. Now, Christy's going to go into what the process is and more about what we go over.
So what we really would like is to be able to meet with couples or individuals who are interested in learning how to manage their finances and really wanting to get their house in order. So some of the things that we go over in our meeting is going to be, will you be combining finances? Is that going to be something that's going to be important to you? Financially speaking, this can be a hot button. Is there something about your fiance that you would like to change, financially speaking? Who's going to be the driver? Who's going to be the person who's going to handle the budget and pay the bills? You're going to have some max spending limits with each other.
Mm-hmm.
What would that look like? Is there going to be a weekly allowance for, you to spend on whatever it is that you want to spend on? Are you the child in your family who will be responsible for your parents or other family members later in the years? You want to think about, it seems so far-fetched now, but trust me, you get to this stage of life before you know it. And you want to make sure that you have the capability to do those kinds of things. We want that for you. Do you have a will? Do you need to change your will? When will you do that will? And then where do you see yourselves as a couple in 5 years? What do you want for your savings and retirement at that time? And, when do you want to be in your dream home? Do you even want a dream home? Those are all of the things that we want to help you work through and that we want to help you achieve. I think the biggest thing for Jennifer and I is making sure that your financial goals are met. And maybe you don't even really know what those financial goals are yet or what they look like. We're hoping that you come out of a meeting with us with a much clearer picture about what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Christy, for going over those. So we're going to go through some questions that we've got from some of you guys out there. And a lot of times when I'm listening to webinars, I learn the most from the questions because it's what other people are thinking are kind of the same things that I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So, Christy, do you want to start with the first question that we've got?
Yeah, we've got a few questions here. If you have a question while we're talking, just put it into the Q&A or put it into the chat, and we will we'll get back with you. So the first is a 401k question. Okay, so should I be saving in my 401k or in a savings account? So really, it's a good question. This is Jennifer. I definitely think that you should be saving in a savings account, of course, and having an emergency fund. And that goes back to Dave Ramsey's tip of having, for your first step of having $1,000 in the bank for any kind of emergencies that come up. And his theory on that is that $1,000 would really cover any kind of big emergency, whether it's a big car repair or anything that you'd really have an emergency on, it'd cover. But when it is hugely important to have a 401k. Yeah.
And the younger you can start it, the better. And a lot of people think, oh, I'll start one next year. And I disagree. If you're 25 years old and your company's offering a 401k, start it now and find out. You're going to have to get with your HR department or your benefits department and find out what the matching is. So they'll know what you mean when you ask about the matching. And it's what a company will offer for each dollar that you put in to your 401k. So when you contribute into your 401k, if you put in $1, that your company may say, we'll match 25 cents per dollar. So they'll put in for free 25 cents per dollar that goes in. That's just free money, guys. So they may say dollar for dollar. My husband's company does that. They match dollar for dollar on everything that he puts into his 401k. So the key here to where you really aren't going to feel it when you start saving is that the money going into your 401k is not taxable. Then that's where you really don't feel it. So when I started this when I was 25, I did not have the additional money to really put into something to save, honestly, but I did it slowly. So our company matches up to 6%, and that's what a lot of you guys will find. And so I started at 2%. And so 2% of my income went into my 401k. And I didn't feel it because it wasn't taxable. And so I made a determination that each time I received a raise, I would add a percentage point.
So to just kind of go into that point, Jennifer,
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I first got into a job, way back when, I worked in a thrift department. We used to call them savings and thrift departments in HR. And there was a gentleman from a retirement pension fund who came and spoke to us, and they actually have a calculation that'll tell you what percentage you can put in your 401k, and it'll make absolutely no difference in your take home. Like your check will not change whatsoever. So that's a good break-even point to know about, and most pension funds folks have that algorithm or formula to show you that.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So, and that's what I did, and I don't even think I asked about that with our company for a formula, but I started at 2%. Next raise went to 3%. Next raise went to 4%. To where currently I'm at 7%. So I am 1% higher than what the company matches, and that's just my choice. Not everybody would do that. But the growth of a 401k, it has nothing to do with what you put in. The growth has to do with the stock market and what the stock market's out there doing. And the growth has been, since I started this, has been crazy huge to where I could have never saved the amount on my own. So it's important to do.
Okay, so next question, this is a good one. How do we make an appointment, and where are you guys located? So we are located in the Firewheel Mall Complex in the northern part of Garland, right off of the George Bush Tollway. And a lot of people don't realize that there is office space located above the retail there. We are so excited to be in this location. We've been here probably about a year and a little over a year.
Yeah.
And super easy to get to. And we would want to meet you here, so that'd be great. And to make an appointment with us, we have a website, MatriMoneyPlanning.com. You can reach out to us there, our information is in this presentation, and you could certainly reach out to us there.
And our address is 375 Cedar Sage Drive, and we're in Suite 250. So we're actually above Zales and Victoria's Secret. and the door to get to the elevators is next to Claire. So it's kind of funny because they're right near shops, but it's a pretty cool location to be at.
Yeah, so check out that MatriMoneyPlanning.com. That's probably the easiest way. And you want to make an appointment with us too. So I know our phone numbers were on here. You will, whenever you call to make an appointment, you'll want to make sure that you set aside about an hour and a half for your appointment, and then we'll use that time to go over everything with you guys. Another really good question here, Jennifer. How long do you think after we get married should we plan to purchase a home?
How long should we plan? So that's definitely, I'm sure you agree, would be a personal question. Yeah. It's going to be different for everyone.
Agreed.
I mean, I would say it really has to do with where each other's credit is, where each other's income is, and where each other's assets are, and where your down payment is. And you're going to be at the place to purchase very different than your friend's going to be at the place to purchase. So it's a timing issue, and it's another reason why we should meet about it.
Yeah, for sure. I do think it's very personal. Buying a house is very personal, even down to what loan is best for you is a very personal financial decision. Okay, so here's another good one. Is it better to save money or get out of debt? Yeah, that's a great question. So
I would go back to Dave Ramsey's baby steps of saving $1,000 and having that cushion for an emergency. Because if you just tackle debt up front and then your car breaks down and you have no savings, then guess what? You got to get right back into debt and charge it. So instead, I would definitely make sure that you first have $1,000 saved. You can stop after $1,000 and start attacking that debt and leave the $1,000 alone. Don't touch it. The new Batman movie coming out is not considered an emergency. So it's not considered an emergency. So you definitely keep that, set that aside for something that you cannot control, and then just start paying off debt as fast as you can, starting with the lowest balanced item and moving up to the highest.
Yeah. These have been some great questions. I think let's just do one more, and then we'll wrap this up. I know we're running on time. Someone has asked here, should my husband and I combine finances or keep them separate? So I think this kind of goes back to the other one. That's going to be a very personal decision in terms of what works best for you guys. And, I've seen couples, my parents did this. They combined finances, and then they combined finances because it didn't work for them.
Wow.
And for the last, 30 years of their marriage, they have had separate finances. So I do feel like it's a very personal decision between couples as to whether or not you combine finances or not. What do you think, Jen?
I think that there's one instance where I feel like it makes sense to be separate, and it's when one of the spouses come in with a child. And if there's child support involved that the other spouse's ex is paying, you really don't want to combine those finances because you want to leave that amount alone. And whether it's just a savings account where that money goes into or something separate that is for your child. And I know that, theoretically everyone should be, this is a family, everybody's all together. But really, if there's child support money being put in for one specific child, you definitely want to keep it separate so there's no gray area that comes into play. I personally feel that finances should be combined. I feel like it does, not everyone is 100% honest, and not everyone, will not be tempted by things. And money is a great starting point for secrets when it comes to maybe affairs or maybe doing things behind someone's back. And so I do feel like they're having everything open and honest when it comes to finances is the right thing to do, in my opinion.
Good. I like that. Okay. Two very different points of view. So I love that. Okay. So I think that wraps it up. If you have an additional question that we didn't cover, please feel free to reach out to us directly. We just want to make sure that we keep this, and honor everyone's time. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up today. Thank you so much for being on the call with us. We hope that you got some good tips, and we look forward to meeting you, hopefully.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.